This one is a bit of a concerning one, really. It's something, when I came onto Etoro, obviously I'm a kind of really new guy. I'm really new to stocks and shares. I'm still learning. I'm new to the markets as a whole. And I was actually looking for a different kind of website when I found Etoro. I was looking for something to do with bots. I wanted to do like bot trading, find out people who had good bots, and then use their bots and give them a percentage of the money that it makes. I was looking for that. I came across copy trading and I thought, wow, this is an amazing idea. This is brilliant. This is outstanding. When I started to have a look into it and all the rest of it, I've always loved the idea of stock markets. Ever since I was kind of young, it's been a very like glamorous and, wow, that looks just an amazingly cool, intelligent way to make money. And people who know about it, obviously very smart. But I came into this having an idea what things are, but really not knowing very much about it at all. You know, I'd watched a lot of financial news because for some reason it relaxed me. Don't know why, but I didn't know about it. But it really, you know, I came to Etoro, had a look around. It's got an amazing interface. It looks friendly and simple. And, you know, the copy trading is like perfectly what I was looking for. I can copy people who have lots of experience. I can copy them for free and they can make me money. And that's really awesome. Thing is, if you're like me, just looking at this stuff, it's so interesting to me that I started to want to have a go myself. So I started to learn a bit, but even before I really knew what I was doing, I didn't use the virtual portfolio. You can use the virtual portfolio, and I think that's a really good idea. I didn't know, I'm impatient, I think I'm quite clever, often very wrong, and I started to try and invest myself. Now, one of the things that made that really useful for me is that I joined Etoro about a year and a couple of months ago, a year and 2 months ago, something like that. And at the time when I joined, you know, and I still have minimum trade sizes, all right? So the minimum trade size is what's the least amount of money you can use to buy, for instance, a stock. So do I have to invest $1,000 or no? You know, what's the minimum that I can invest? And the minimum trade sizes when I joined were kind of, you know, they were acceptable, they were doable. I still have those minimum trade sizes. And I've been making videos thinking that that stayed the same. And people were like commenting on my videos. Someone was, you know, commenting, you know, if I want to, you know, make a trade on Apple and it's 500, and they'd carry on with their comment. And I just think they put an extra zero because I can make a trade on Apple with 50. So if I go to here, I'll go to help and I'll show you what I mean. So I'll go here, there's the help screen, you find it just down here, and I'm going to type minimum trade size. All right, so the minimum trade size. Here's my minimum trade sizes. So if I want to put a trade on currencies, Forex, I can do a minimum of $25. Commodities, $25. I still have access to the leverage and stuff, but I can do it without. For stocks, if I want to buy a stock with no leverage, $50. I can put times 10, times 5, times 2 leverage. So if I go to trade markets and let's go to stocks. Let's go to good old Tesla. Go on, Elon. So, and I go to trade. I can, you know, I can put $50 here. Boom. $50. I've only got $48 available balance, so I'd have to put another $2, you know. But I can do $50 trades, and I can use 10 leverage or 2 leverage or no leverage. I can still do the $50 trade. So which is amazing for me. So that was really useful. 50 stocks, 200 for indices and ETFs. To me, that seemed a lot. 200. Whoa, 200 as a minimum, that seemed like a big amount, you know. I had put in like 1,000, let's say I've got 1,200 in here or something. 200 is a big amount of money as a proportion. When the copy funds came out, I saw that, and the minimum you can put on a copy fund is 5,000. I'm like, yeah, it's not for me. I wanted to use a lot of my money in copying other people, and I wanted to keep a little bit back to sort of trade myself. And because I could put $50 trades and $25 trades and stuff like this, that's kind of possible, you know. It's like I don't have to risk too much. I managed to lose a lot of money in the beginning doing that because I took more and more away from copying and more into trading. And it kind of highlights a thing that, like, if it's there and it's exciting and it's interesting and it's useful, I think people will try and trade themselves. Even if, like me, they hadn't really studied well enough beforehand. They're going to take that risk. It's kind of a risky thing to do, but, you know, it's there. They've made the system really simple, and I think they've marketed it at new people. You know, by putting copy trading in, you're automatically sort of pulling in new people and saying, you know, have a go, here's copy trading, that's safe. But those people I think will try and invest themselves. Now, I was watching a lot of videos about traders and stuff and how to trade and all the rest of it. And one of the things they talk about is, try not to put more than 5% of your money on any one trade. So let's say I have $1,000. $100 is 10%, $50 is 5%. So I'm kind of good. I can put 5% on any one trade with no leverage. Another thing they say is try not to use too much leverage when you're new. Because when you use leverage, leverage is like, it's a multiplier effect. So if I put $50 on Apple with no leverage, it's like I'm trading with $50. If I put times 10 leverage, it's like I'm trading with $500. Times 5 leverage, like I'm trading with $250. So you can make more money, but you can also make more losses. And there's an emotional thing in trading, which I've found anyhow, just fear. Fear and greed, play quite a big part in trading, at least for me when I'm new, I see my money going down quickly. I'm liable to panic and sell it when I shouldn't. I should have just held on and it will go up. So it takes time to understand how the markets move, What's support? What's resistance? How do the markets move? You sort of get used to it. But before you're really used to it, you're liable to, if you're using a lot of leverage, make kind of bad bets. Use too much leverage. Potentially you can lose a lot of money. You can wipe your account out pretty quickly. 90% of traders, they say, 90% of retail traders lose 90% of their accounts, all their money, in the first 90 days of trading. It's a dangerous thing. This is not like there's no risk, And I know they put stuff around saying there's risk, only risk what you can afford to lose. Who can really afford to lose their money? I mean, to a degree, but you don't want to. You don't want to lose your money. And most retail traders do, because of using too much leverage and not knowing what's going on. And so, here's the reason I say that. People were putting these comments like, 500 on Apple and as a minimum trade, and I thought they were adding a zero. I thought they'd made a mistake, and because I can trade with 50, they had just added a zero, and it's a mistake. I'll carry on talking as if they've made a typo. I won't point that out. I'll be nice. But more and more people started saying that, and people started to comment. And then I realized that Etoro have actually raised the minimum trade size, and they haven't raised it a little. So that's mine, 25 for currencies, 50 for stocks, 200 for indices and ETFs. Here's the new ones. So for Forex and indices, it's gone from 25 on currencies to 5,000. And to be honest, I don't want to say bad stuff or say, oh, Etoro, what are you doing? But really, that's a big increase. For stocks and ETFs, it was 50. I can still trade with 50. For new people, it's 500. Now, this is for customers who registered on or after April the 2nd, 2017. So if you registered on or after April the 2nd of this year, of 2017, these are the minimum trade sizes for you. The minimum trade size, this is important, the minimum trade size is based on exposure, which is leverage times the invested amount. So what that means is, let's say we'll take stocks. At the moment, I can trade with no leverage $50 on a stock, on Apple, and I'm good. I've opened my trade. People now either have to put $500 with no leverage, or they can do $250 with 2 times leverage, or they can do $50 with 10 times leverage. Okay, 50 times 10 equals 500. So the average, now there's a bit of maths here, okay, but statistically, from what I've heard, I may be wrong, check this yourself, but from what I've heard, statistically, the average retail trader credits his account with around $2,000, okay? So let's say you have to, you're trying to avoid leverage because you're new, and you're trying to only put 5% on any trade, because that's sort of what they say is standard best practice. So 5 to 10%, let's say 5 to be really safe. So what's 5% of $2,000? So 10% of $2,000 is $200. 5% would be $100. So you're trying not to use more than $100. So let's say you put $100 on a stock. To get to their minimum trade size, you instantly have to use 5 times leverage. It's not that bad, 5 times leverage, you know? It's not that bad. Using no leverage on small amounts of stocks, you don't make a lot of profit anyhow, and it gets frustrating. But, you know, if you want to put only $50, let's say you haven't put $2,000 in. I know a lot of people who are on Etoro who have put $1,000 in, or $800, or $500. You know, it's meant to be sort of attracting people who don't necessarily have a lot of money. I understand why eToro have done this, you know. It's good business for them, you know. It means that they'll have less server load. You know, they won't have people making millions of $50 trades. They'll make fewer trades and larger trades. It's better for their server load. They're a growing company, blah, 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 blah. It's better for their server load. It means that they just have people who are generating more profits potentially for them. It's a business move. But it doesn't necessarily make the safest environment for very new traders who want to learn to trade manually. Now, so let's say someone only wants to put on $50. They haven't put that much money in, you know. That's kind of forcing them to use times 10 leverage, which is risky if you're brand new. It can make you more money. You can make a lot more money if you get the trades right. Statistically though, new retail traders don't. They lose money because of panic, because of fear, because of greed. They don't make good, objective, rational decisions. I didn't. Other people don't. That your emotions get in touch, in control, and boom, they're engaged. So by doing this, what they've really done is they've made it more risky as an environment for the little guy. You know, if you're coming to eToro and you want to just sort of learn how to trade, is it the safest environment anymore? Honestly, meh, not really. I mean, if you've got a lot of money and you've got 10,000, then you can put in 500 with no leverage. You can put in 500. That's still 5% of your portfolio. But you need to have credited your account with 10,000 to be able to use their minimum stocks trade size without any leverage. You know, and I know I use leverage. I use leverage on all my trades, you know, because, you know, betting $50 without leverage, you can't really make a lot of money. You can't lose a lot of money, but you can't make a lot of money. But I'm just saying that, you know, they do suggest avoiding leverage in the beginning. They do suggest not using more than 5% of your total amount on any trade. So in doing this, I mean, they've raised them really quite substantially. And what I didn't want to be doing is sort of saying, yeah, come into eToro, all you new people, come into eToro, learn to trade here, and potentially putting you in a situation where it's risky and you're not aware of that, you know. So I just wanted to do that. I got to sleep at night, you know. So it's a bit risky now with the minimum trade sizes. If you're still with the old trade sizes, that's okay. But if you came in after April 2nd, 2017, be aware of that, you know, be aware of that. One of the ways around that, really, copy trading. Copy trading's, obviously, you can copy trade someone with, you know, $100, minimum of $100. And what that does is you automatically copy all of their open positions, all right? So let's say they've put 5% of their money on Apple, okay? And you've put in $100, they could have $1,000, $10,000, $20,000, $100,000 in their account, right? And they put 5% of their entire money on Apple. You've copied that person with $100, so you will put 5% of the money you copied them with on Apple. So you'll be opening a trade with $5 on Apple. So copying people lets you beat the minimum trade sizes. So the minimum trade size, if you're doing it manually, is $500. But if you're copying someone, if I go to my portfolio, let's go to J. So over here, look, I've got trades opened. These are all my trades in my this is in my portfolio. I've gone to J, who I'm copying, and this shows all the trades I'm copying him with, you see. So he's opened these trades and I automatically open them as well. So I've got trades on Activision here, $198. Facebook, $2.69. The minimum, if I do it manually, is $50 at the moment. For the new people after April 2nd, 2017, it's $500 is the minimum amount you can use when you open a trade with Facebook. Because I've copied him, and it automatically copies the same proportion he's traded with, I trade with, and I put much less money, then look, I've got a trade on Facebook with $2.69, Bitcoin with $5.90, Nvidia with $6.39, Bitcoin here with $11.79. So by copying people, it is a way to get around this. It is a way. Now, it means I'm not learning to do it manually. Maybe I can learn to do it manually in my virtual portfolio. I could switch from here, real, I could go to my virtual portfolio, and if I want to trade manually and learn to trade manually, I think the safest thing to do, if you've got a small amount of money now, or you just don't know what to do, you haven't got enough money that you can avoid using leverage, I think the safest place to trade, the only really safe place to trade now, as a beginner, is in your virtual portfolio. You know, learn to trade here. If that's your goal, is to simply learn, then learn in the virtual. I know it's not the same as using real money, because when you use real money, then the emotions are involved and you have to learn to control them. And you generally learn a lot quicker because your money's on the line. But in your real portfolio, I'm not sure how safe that is now for brand new people because of the trade size, the minimum trade size increase. They may change that, all right? They may get better amount of server load, capacity might go up, and they may say, all right, let's lower it again. You know, more support staff, then they may lower it again. But for the moment, it's a bit risky, and I didn't want to sort of be promoting something which is going to put anyone at risk. So at the moment, if you're new, if you haven't got enough money, I would suggest, if you're going to trade in the virtual portfolio manually, and otherwise copy people. Stick with copying people because they can open much smaller trade sizes. Plus they have all the experience. And you can learn in the virtual portfolio. But, you know, if you're going to open $50 trades with times 10 leverage, do it. I mean, I did it. But be aware that it is quite a risky thing to do. You know, it is quite a risky proposition. And that's on stocks. You know, cryptos you can do $25 with time. There's no leverage on cryptos, is there, on here? The cryptos are real now. They're not CFDs. But you can't use leverage on cryptos at the moment on Etoro. They might reinstate it in future. But at the moment, if you want to trade cryptos, the minimum is $250. So if you've put in only $1,000, that's 25% of your account on each trade. Isn't best practice. You can do it. You can do anything you want, you know. I take these sorts of risks, but they are risky, and I don't want to say they're not. Do you know what I mean? So, so that's what I hope that makes sense. I hope it wasn't too. If you want to find out about them, just go to help here, and here you can type in. Just type in minimum, and look, minimum, and it comes up. Minimum trades and minimum trade size comes up, and you can see them. There we are. So it gives a description of what you can do here, of what those minimum trade sizes are. And you can have a look yourself and really read through it and familiarize yourself with it. But it's a change I wasn't aware of, and it's a real thing. There we are.